M Theory Solved was published this morning, so I feel like making a very different kind of video than I used to on this platform. For those of you who don't know what is M Theory is essentially the theory of everything, or the God equation, the equation that explains the entire nature of our reality. It's been basically the quest of mathematicians and scientists for pretty much since Albert Einstein discovered the theory of relativity, and has been beset by many problems essentially of the modern human mind as the main hindrance in finding our way to this equation. For those of you who don't know, the scientific revolution was really on like full steam ahead up until Heisenberg's discovery of the uncertainty principle. This uncertainty principle meaning, when waves were measured as waves, essentially life would appear as a waveform reality. And when measured as particles, we would find particles. And there was no real explanation as to why these same energies would exist in these different phases. This is what led to modern quantum science as you know today, and has been, basically problematic ever since, especially due to the fact that no one really could figure out why these particles or why these waves were behaving in the way they were. And so essentially, we boiled it down to string theory, but it got stuck there and couldn't find any solutions that were really satisfactory to explain the nature of everything, the nature of life. An additional problem from this was that because uncertainty principle was the basis of our modern society, we basically built this entire society on uncertainty. It's essentially how we live. It's how we make our major decisions. It's how you make a smart decision, is you be essentially uncertain and bring as much doubt into it as you can. It's interesting because this shows exactly how societies and consciousness basically function according to the cosmologic reference points that we have. For example, before Nicholas Copernicus discovered the heliocentric universe, we believed that the Earth was at the center of the galaxy, and that, essentially it was the highest heaven, that this was God's chosen place. And when Nicholas Copernicus published on the revolution of the spheres, it caused such a giant problem for consciousness, because all of a sudden people realized the scale of life was so much more vast than they ever conceived before. And honestly, this terrified them. They were so scared of this new reality, it caused a phenomenal effect called Copernican shock. And, honestly, we still feel the effects of Copernican shock like all the way to this day. It's an essential distrust in our life and in nature and in our position in the cosmos. We're at a loss because there was a dichotomy created even people would believe it, like an antagonism between science and between spirituality and religion. This led people to essentially having to make a decision between what you could call like the Church of Science and the Church of Spirituality, as they saw them as in direct contrast and even opposition to each other. And because of this, the Earth was then conceived as essentially an enemy that needed to be conquered, which led to the Industrial Revolution and, the beginning of mass pollution and all the problems that have led essentially to all of our environmental concerns and the issues that are impendingly facing us now. And you can see that this is a reflection of human consciousness, of our ability to comprehend our place and position in the cosmos. So essentially, this is the condition of modernity. These are the complexes and these are the problems that we have to solve. Nevertheless, this has taken us quite far away from the true nature of our reality, and honestly has stripped a lot of the magic and the beauty out of life and replaced it with a struggle mentality of essentially pitting ourselves against the universe, pitting ourselves against each other, extreme competition in all things. Believing that this is the essential base of what's required for us to live in a cosmos that does not support us, that is antagonistic towards us, and that we must essentially fight and struggle to exist in chaos as, Lord of Light. Essentially the Mithraic myths, come to fruition. So this brings me back to the original point that in our quest for M theory, we've been hindered mainly by two things. Like an over-reliance on technology. We expected technology to be able to map out and essentially interpret our reality for us, which is, anyone who knows advanced mathematics, this is only an approximation at best. And the other problem here is that in technology, especially now, is interlaced with these same human deficiencies that plague us. We program the computers, the programs then, basically represent a super speed version of ourselves, nothing better than that. And human consciousness is limited specifically by its inability to conceive the actual nature of spherical time because of an addiction to a narrative structure due to a very strong and inherent belief in linear time. The second major hindrance is a belief in duality, which the fact is that a polarity, true, does exist, and polarity exists for a reason. The contrast exists for a reason. Polarity is actually what gives the spin to the essential forces of the universe to create everything that we have. And so there is no play of this good versus evil. There's a play of a positive pole and a negative pole, and their effects on the neutron, right? And how that interplay and dance of, at the most fundamental basic levels from the atoms continue their dance and their expression all the way out into, organic life forms at higher and higher degrees and levels of sophistication. But in order to truly comprehend M theory, we would have to go beyond being stuck in a duality mindset and be able to go beyond the polarities to see how these polarities function and how they affect inherent reality. And the fact is that most of modern science, while seeking M theory, were limiting themselves essentially to the laws of what exists in our physical reality, maybe mixing, some fourth dimensional aspects of space and time relations and some minor fifth dimensional understanding of, alternate realities and projected realities and how those can affect those timelines. But this is essentially as far as they've gotten, even at the most advanced and edges, advanced edge of like where they're even willing to go. And by the time you're here, you're so off the charts of what they will call, what they'll accept essentially within their orthodoxy, that there's no way that you could even begin to publish anything like beyond this or on this in any way without devoting your entire life to like proving a simple basic equation of like fourth dimensional dynamics. The key of M theory is that in order to get an actual answer, you have to go out all the way to the 10th dimension. And so what this requires you to do is drop all of the conceptions to be able to expand yourself out to conceive how a 10th dimensional energy through a 9th dimensional vortex essentially projected itself into an electromagnetic 8th dimensional torus, which reflected back the energy of that 10th dimensional energy entering the black hole and then projecting it out, reflecting back and being received by a consciousness that perceived itself as an existence and then manifested itself essentially holographically, no different than like a holographic projection that you'd see on stage. Utilizing a psychological effect of the suspension of disbelief, much like when you go to a film. You're watching a movie and all of a sudden you're in the movie, right? You forget you're in a movie theater, you forget you're surrounded by hundreds of people. You just like are in the characters, you are the characters, you're in the story. It's the same thing where we're in the reality that we conceive that exists as a cross-section of fourth dimensional timelines with fifth dimensional possibilities. And this is going to take some time to really grasp, because these are like ideas that are quite beyond where anyone's really been able to go. But essentially, to understand M theory in its entirety, you're going to have to come all the way out to the 10th dimension. And you're going to have to understand how all of these interplays of energy affect and change our lives, and that our lives are not based upon an uncertainty principle, but there is in fact an order and a progression and an expansion inherent to the program. And that's what's really exciting about this discovery and about M theory, is that it gives us certainty back. It gives us surety and not faith. And this is huge for us going forward from where we are now, which we could say we're in a quite dangerous situation, if you're going to be completely honest. For anyone who's traveled the world even lightly, you know that like the pollution problem, the environmental problems are extreme. I mean, just as I say this right now, like a propane truck with like flammable is just like driving right up to like start pumping gases right into the forest, right? But this is exactly my point. We can go forward with a surety and actually know how to create something beyond our wildest imaginations, beyond our wildest expectations, something way beyond what's ever been done in human history. And this is the gift of being born in this time. And I'm very excited for this. I'm very excited that this breakthrough is published and available to you now. So if you want to read about it, just follow the link in bio. Thanks.